If I lived in China, I'd have some Chinese children. Well, if I lived in China, I'd have some Chinese children. Yeah, if I lived in China, I'd have some Chinese children. Well, if I lived in China, if I lived in China, Well, out of my ears, my little black baby is, and that's my fact. Now, if I lived in Russia, I'd have some Chinese children. Yeah, if I lived in Prussia, I'd have some Chinese children. Well, if I lived in India, they'd still be Chinese children. And out of my toes, my little blue baby grows, and that's another fact. Now, if I lived in Ireland, I'd have some Chinese children. Yeah, if I lived in Ireland, I'd have some Chinese children. Well, if I lived in Spainland, they'd still be Chinese children. And if I lived in Greeceland, they'd still be Chinese children. But out of my thumbs, my little red baby runs, and that's another fact, an unchanging fact.
All right, not good enough. We need one more. Here we go.
Get on the ark!
Time to stop playing.
What did I tell you? Fine, it's over.
Hey, Ahab! This is it!
It would appear.
Get on the ark! Everyone on the ark now!
I agree. I think we should go on our phone.
All right, I'm going to end that one because it kind of ends abruptly. Hello, everybody. Sorry, I've been gone for a week. What's the temperature in here? It's cooler because I had to open up all the windows in my house. It's really messing with my allergies, probably killing my daughter today. Not loving it. But we have a lot of green. Sealess, just a second ago, he was talking about how Bitcoin is a little sluggish today, and that's perfectly okay because we got Tesla up 8%. We got Amazon up almost 8%. We got Nvidia. I can't even see what the fuck it's up. It's probably close. Apple, the Magnificent Seven is definitely flying today. The ones that have been beat up the hardest are taking off. China's taking off. We've got a lot to talk about. A lot to talk about. So we have tariffs getting retracted for 90 days. In case you're new here, you haven't seen what's happened over the weekend. So 90 days, we're going to see tariffs against China down to 30%, which is still a lot. And then for the U.S., down to 10%. We have Pakistan and India ending a war that started like a week ago, last week. And then it involved India crushing and destroying Pakistan virtually overnight. And in the process of doing so, making it to where it was so bad and there was so much concern that the USA got involved to end it before there was nuclear war because they were kicking Pakistan's ass so badly. We have Russia and Ukraine getting ready to meet this week to hopefully try and finalize some kind of deal because Russia's going to be having more and more pressure against them if they don't. We've got prescription drugs dropping from anywhere from 30 to 80%. Probably averaging around 60% in the United States. Yes, that'll mean higher prices for overseas, but we shouldn't be subsidizing the price for the rest of the world. That's what this president's doing. He got himself a $400 million plane. That seems cool. We got U.S. stablecoins that are looking to destroy other currencies and eat them up around the world. We'll talk about that. We got Michael Howell talking about how the money printing is coming. We'll talk about that. We've got me saying that gold is topped and that it could go down to 3,000 while Bitcoin takes off. But it's not Bitcoin's day today. Today is all about the stock market. And we got a lot more to talk about. Before we get into all that, we're going to be going over Fundstrat. We want to listen to him. We're probably going to do that right next. And then we're going to listen to Scott Bessent. And then we're going to jump over and listen to Eunice Yoon and the messaging coming out of China. And then we're going to go from there, okay? So we got a lot. Let's get started. Let's listen to, again, I don't do this very often because this is something I pay for. It's like $250 a month for this. And I don't know that Tom Lee would want me doing it that often, but we're going to watch this 8-minute video from Tom Lee this morning. I think it's this morning. Or was it last night? No, it was Sunday last night around 10 o'clock, talking about the economy and what's happening. So let's listen. Let's go.
Good evening, FS Insight family and community. Today is Sunday, May 11th, and this is our Macro Minute. We've got an important week ahead. There were some important announcements over the weekend, which I'm going to cover, and there's some important macro and Fed speak this week.
All right, speeding you up, Tom.
Though, it's actually positive. The first is there were a flurry of weekend announcements by President Trump, including a China deal, which was announced on Sunday, and that's a positive surprise because, as you know, many people did not think the U.S. and China could come to terms over a short period of time. Now, we don't have full details yet, but if we look at Polymarket, the betting markets see...
So we do now. Again, it's the 30% tariffs still on for China for 90 days, and then us only having 10. Sweet Bid McGee, thank you for the $1.99. Appreciate you.
65% chance that the new tariff rates are 75% or less, and specifically a 29%
30.
chance the tariff rates are below 50%. Now, Trump also signed an executive, or announced he's going to sign an executive order on Monday, and in this case, it's to reduce prescription drug and pharmaceutical prices by 30 to 80%, and institute something called a most favored nation status, where the U.S. will pay the same price as the country that pays the lowest price anywhere in the world.
Which means that drugs are going up all around the world, but they're going to be much lower here. And that's significant. That lowers insurance rates down the road. It's going to have dramatic impact all across the medical industry.
Now, what does this actually mean? It probably means that if this goes through, there will be an adjustment to drug prices. Probably prices have to go up for the rest of the world, but they'll drop in the U.S. For instance, this is from the NIH, and you can see that for the same U.S. Customer, they're paying somewhere 3 to 4 times more for the same drug as it's sold, whether it's sold in Canada, Germany, France, Italy, Japan. So the U.S. does pay a lot more for drugs. So this could be significant. Well, how significant? Let's take a look at CPI. And you can see drugs are 1.35% of the CPI basket. And if drug prices drop 80%, that's 1.35% weight times minus minus 80%. That equals a 1 percentage point drop in CPI. So this would be pretty significant if you look at
1% drop in CPI. So we were paying 3x the amount, or 300% more, whatever it was, versus the rest of the world. Let me go back here and just see. 3x, 200% more than the rest of the world. And we're looking at drops in CPI of over 1% from this move, which is huge. Again, we're all about making it to where we don't have to worry about inflation in this country and forcing Fed Jerome Powell's hand. And that's what's going to happen.
0.35% of the CPI basket.
Ooh,
And if drug prices drop 80%, that's 1.35% weight times minus 80%. That equals a 1 percentage point drop in CPI. So this would be pretty significant if you look at inflation, which is running at 2.8%. It would drop by a whole percentage point.
That's crazy.
I think that the second thing I want to highlight in the week ahead is that I think the market's going to likely look through what is going to be a coming rolling recession. Now, the odds of a recession are still sitting at around 50%, even after the trade deal announced with China, but that is far better than it was at the end of April when it stood at 66%. But as you can see, the market is sort of not changing the odds of recession with this China trade deal. But here's the thing. Let's take a look at container bookings. These are container bookings from China to the US, and you can see they fell sharply through the week ending April, but it could look like this now that there's a trade deal. Here's the thing. You might say to yourself, well, look at these declines. They're going to work their way through the supply chain, and so it's going to look really bad. But at the end of the day, the market's going to ignore this if they see the inflection, because again, it was a temporary dip. Keep that in mind. You're going to hear a lot of people say there's a recession coming, but markets are largely going to ignore it if it's not leading to a sustained downturn. And we get CPI this week. I mean, there is quite a lot of macro, but CPI comes on Tuesday. The street is looking for 0.27, which is an acceleration from last month. And because it's higher than it was a year ago, the year-over-year inflation rate does pick up. But keep in mind, inflation is just really being propped up by shelter and auto insurance.
And shelter and auto insurance are going down. Plus, we're looking at a potential 1% drop in CPI coming from the medical side.
And again, I want to highlight something. In Europe, they don't look at shelter when they do the calculation of CPI. And so Europe's inflation rate of 2.2%
Agreed,
justified the ECB to cut rates. And in the US, if you exclude shelter, CPI is running at 1.8%. It's running lower than Europe.
So we're running 40 basis points lower than Europe. And we're much more strict. So there's a really good case here to cut in the future.
By 40 basis points, and yet the Fed is on hold. And
Hey,
the Fed is
JT.
tighter by 225 basis points, and the ECB is cutting. So you can see that by this metric, I think if the Fed was using a different benchmark, they'd be cutting. We get PPI on Thursday, and then Fed Chair Powell speaks at 8:40 a.m. On the framework review, and that's going to be watched. Of course, there's a lot of Fed speak this week, but again, key is Fed Chair Powell speaking. Now, last week after the FOMC meeting, a lot of investors concluded the Fed will not be preemptive, and it's because the bar is higher for them to cut. In fact, the number of cuts is getting reduced again to 2.5 cuts. But at the end of the day, I don't view this as a hawkish Fed. I think the Fed is going to cut. They're just waiting to cut. That means they're a dovish Fed that's just waiting. And there's some earnings this week as well. Semler Scientific and Doximity are two mid-range shots. And then here's the thing. From a macro perspective, I think what's going to matter is 2026. And we've been talking about this. And next year, there'll be a new tax plan. There's deregulation, expanded export demand, and tariff rates are better than currently. So even if you...
So again, I talk about all these things too, but let's just get back over here. And I'm sorry for anybody that felt like a crackhead because I wasn't around last week. I really appreciate that. That's very kind of you to say. So again, if we look over here, so many good things, right? China-U.S. deal and concept, more trade deals coming this week, executive order on prescription drugs, market likely has been in a rolling recession for years. CPI this week, but not yet reflective of new few months. And then what really matters is the trajectory for 2026. I 100% agree with this. The new tax plan, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security, no lower corporate taxes, extending the existing corporate tax breaks, expensing domestic CapEx for anybody that's going to be moving facilities into the United States, whether it's the buildings, the products, everything, being able to expense all of that. Deregulation, expanded export demand, because we're seeing a fall in the dollar. It's up a little bit today, but that's fine. But a fall in the dollar, and then in a weakening of it, and then again, just all these incentives bringing in exports into the United States, while still 30% tariffs are not weak against China. This is actually still a high number. Again, the Overton window has shifted. 30%, if we would have said 2 months ago that we were going to hold 30% tariffs on China, people would have freaked out, saying, that's fucking crazy. Why would you do that? Today, they're like, what, we gave up? We caved on China because we're only giving them 30% tariffs? That's the way things work. That's how a shift in the Overton window works. And that's what's happened. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing that people are okay with a 30%, and they think that Trump caved because of 30% tariffs on China. I love that existence. Uncle Jesse gave $5 Canadian, says, can we get a wellness check for Tesla bears and Dividend Dude? I'm guessing they're not in good shape. Not today. Tesla up 8% in pre-market. I'm up probably $75,000, $80,000 just on Tesla alone today. Very exciting. And what's also exciting is that Mara's up 4.2%, CleanSpark's up 5%, Iron's up 6%, and MSTR is still up 1.4%. We're seeing shit coins taking off. This is not a bear market. Shit coins don't do this in a fucking day during a bear market. They don't do this. I can tell you, this is not how this works. I was here in 2017. I was here in the 2021 peak. I know these well, and I've researched every peak in the Bitcoin and crypto cycles and everything about them all the way back to when there were colored coins. So I know all this shit, and this is not a bear market that we're looking at right now. Let's jump over real quickly and let Bunstrat finish, and then we're going to go over and listen to Scott Bessent.
There's deregulation, expanded export demand, and tariff rates are better than currently. So even if you think all this is going to be hitting the economy, markets are largely going to ignore this, we believe. And that gets us to strategy. You know, we've been telling you we think it's going to be a V-shaped recovery because of the waterfall decline, and we believe we're still in a bull market, which we think is V-shaped. Sentiment has been shockingly cautious, and that's a bullish signal. I mean, the easiest thing to cite is AAII percentage bulls versus bears. You can see since mid-February, the percentage of bears has remained
again, guys, since mid-February, 40%. Look at this, the bearishness here. Since February 5th, it was 43% bearish. We have been more bearish than bullish for all of February, March, and April, and we're in May. Over 90, almost 100 fucking days of extreme bearishness. And people not being optimistic about what's happening. I love this environment. Strategy got what? 13,400 Bitcoin. All right, 1 second. I got to pull that up. That's too good. Let me get that real quick. That's just like, what the fuck? Yeah, I want to retry again, please. Thank you. Wow, dude. Wow. 13,000 a Bitcoin. Let's just do it from the main page here. That's amazing. And then, guys, not even just them, Metaplanet over the weekend, and so many others. Everybody, it's just a flood. 1,241. So let's just do the math here. So we got 1,241, 13,000, roughly 15,000 Bitcoin purchased, right? Thank you, Uncle Jesse, for becoming a member. Roughly 15,000 Bitcoin purchased in a week from two companies. We're creating about 450 new Bitcoin a day. Okay? So I don't know about you guys, but those seem like really good fucking numbers. Yeah, celebratory numbers. I don't know why the fuck that just happened, but that's perfect timing. Thank you, Mac. That's beautiful. This is not a bad thing. This is not a bear market, man. I don't know what to tell people. It's not that. Let's keep going.
And
I don't have one for Metaplanet. I haven't bought it. I think it's going to do well. It's a smaller cap. It's a higher NAV premium, but we can talk about it a little bit more in a sec.
Look at the bearishness that was at the end of April. It was the most bearish since Tariff Liberation Day. Investors just have not gotten bullish, despite the fact that the market has been recovering. Bitcoin to me is also pointing to the S&P to get to all-time highs. Bitcoin here is at 104,000. It reached 109,000 on January 20th. So just keep in mind, it peaked before the S&P did, and it's now back to the February highs. And that tells me that I think the S&P is likely to go back to 61.47. High yield spreads are rallying, and that argues against a recession. As you can see, high yield has continued to rally strongly. Yields, the spread or option adjusted spread is
this is good.
Basis points to treasuries. You'd expect this to be 600 or 700 if you think we're near a recession. And washed out stocks are leading the recovery. And we talked about this. A washed out stock is so oversold, there's no one left.
I want to go back and look at that real quick here. So he was saying high yield. Let's see, right here. He said high yield, you would expect what, 600-700 if we were heading towards a recession. And this looks like a climax that's dropping off a cliff, just like gold.
To treasuries, you'd expect this to be 600 or 700 if you think we're near a recession. And washed out stocks are leading the recovery. And we've talked about this. A washed out stock is so oversold, there's no one left to sell it. MicroStrategy is an example of a washed out stock, and you can see it's now closing in on its all-time highs. Tesla is a washed out stock, and you can see it's already back to its mid-February levels. Ethereum is another example.
Look at that bounce in Ethereum, guys, just in like a little over a couple weeks. Look at that. Look at how well it's come back after everybody pronouncing it dead. This is risk-on behavior.
It's the second largest cryptocurrency, and you can see just in the last few days, it has risen dramatically. We have a list of 22 large cap stocks that we think are similarly washed out. Market cap greater than 15 billion, declined more than 30%. Before February 18th, they didn't make a new closing low during that 7-day period between April 1st to the 8th. And we have 27 mid-cap stocks. These are all detailed in our note. But thanks for listening, and I'll speak to you soon.
All right. I was going to say, I guess I'll just say it now. Uncle Jesse asked if I got into the grab train. No, I didn't. I don't know enough about that sector of the world right now to feel confident about investing in it. And I definitely don't feel that confident in just what's going to happen with Southeast Asia. Again, we've got tariffs on all these motherfuckers, and the areas that are going to be feeling the pain the most are going to be China, and then the rollover effects are going to be experienced most there. So that's not an area I'm looking to put money in, even though Chinese stocks have done really well today, and they will bounce as well. I think what you want to be invested in is the United States, and then if that fails, if we fuck it all up, then Bitcoin is the prevailing winner, and we'll talk about more of that and why. But let's get over to Scott Bessent. I don't want to get too off track. We got a lot to focus on today. Let's listen to Scott talk about what's happening with this, and I'll throw in my 2 cents. Nope, need some music. There we go. Yeah, Josh sold all of his, and he has every right to do that. We'll talk about that too.
Most of the new tariffs join us now from Geneva.
I mean, for the record, Josh made about 15x on MicroStrategy, so we can let him have his win.
Secretary Scott Bessent, Mr. Secretary, thanks so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
Joe, good to be with you.
Good.
This guy has worked his ass off all weekend.
Checking on the delay, not too bad. We know that some of the details of what happened, Mr. Secretary, but can you recount to us?
Yeah, and 15x is a pretty decent win.
Some of the color, how it came together. You mentioned that the venue and the equanimity. Was it cordial and conciliatory right from the outset, or would you characterize it as tough negotiating most of the way?
Joe, I would characterize it very much as President Trump, the equivalent of President Trump's relationship with Party Chairman Xi.
Oh, shit. They bumped me. Give me a sec. The video rolled over, so I got to actually find the stream. I'm sure it's in here. There we go.
Join us now from Geneva.
Sorry about that.
Secretary Scott Bessent, Secretary, thanks so much for joining us this morning. We appreciate it.
This is where membership pays. Otherwise, that would just be gone.
Joe, good to be with you.
Good. Checking on the delay, not too bad. We know that some of the details of what happened, Mr. Secretary, but can you recount to us some of the color, how it came together? You mentioned that the venue and the equanimity. Was it cordial and conciliatory right from the outset, or would you characterize it as tough negotiating most of the way?
Joe, I would characterize it very much as President Trump, the equivalent of President Trump's relationship with Party Chairman Xi. They have a good relationship, but they both advocate strongly for their respective countries, for their respective citizens. So it was always respectful. We have the 2 largest economies in the world. We were firm, and we moved forward. We tried to identify shared interest. We came with a list of problems that we were trying to solve, and I think we did a good job on that. And again, this is a 90-day pause. For our tariff program, we had a plan, we had a process, and now what we have with the Chinese is a mechanism to avoid an upward tariff pressure like we did last time. So this is a 90-day pause.
Yeah. So what he's saying is we don't have to worry about, some escalatory ramp. They've done that. And now it's a 90-day pause. But the seriousness of what Trump is willing to do is very evident to Xi now. Again, with 200+% tariffs given some circumstance. That says enough about what we're willing to fucking do if we need to in order to be able to crush China. And the Pakistan's loss with 80% of their weapon systems being Chinese and having 11 fucking air bases, I think it was maybe at least 6 to 11. I can't remember. I've got all the details. I'll show you guys that stuff in a second, including a nuclear facility where they're storing their nukes. They're just getting their ass handed to them in every fucking way. We have all the power. I've been saying that the whole fucking time, while other people just go blah, 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 and talk about whatever out of their ass that they got for a fucking headline because they have no conviction in their own beliefs because they don't do their homework. But I didn't have that problem. And we haven't had that problem. And anybody searching for the truth and actually fucking trying to find it didn't have that problem.
Do you expect that tone to continue as these details, the devil's always in the details, get worked out over the next 90 days? And what aspects do you think will be relatively easy, and what will present the biggest obstacles?
Well, look, Joe, I don't think anything's going to be easy because this has been going on a long time. But what I can tell you, President Trump in his first term realized a very effective trade deal that was signed in the Oval Office in January 2020. And the Chinese delegation basically messaged to us that the Biden administration failed to hold them accountable for it. So I think that the January 2020, President Trump's highly successful previous trade deal can be a starting point, and knowing that President Trump will enforce any deal, I think will make the Chinese very deliberate in their negotiations and know that whatever they agree to, President Trump will enforce.
And that's why he started off strong this time. Because in 2016, actually it was 17, he made arrangements with China to do a lot of things, including buying our agricultural goods, all these things that they were supposed to do. It was a good fucking trade deal for both sides. They didn't keep their part of the bargain. That's why we came in hot. That's why we beat them across the face in every fucking other place that we could. And that's why we punished their neighbors so much, because they were doing transshipments for years since that time frame, only escalating in order to be able to avoid tariffs and circumvent it. And we said that fucking time is over. We're going to make deals with you. You're going to abide by them, or we're going to fucking bury you. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Would you say that the Chinese, were you able to detect, or was it apparent that there was some urgency to make some progress, given what we're hearing about Chinese businesses being shuttered en masse, factory activity declining, PMI declining, maybe even some social unrest? Could you detect that, or was there, for lack of a better term, a stiff upper lip shown to you?
Look, the vice premier is a very skilled negotiator. He is a high-ranking Chinese official. I had a very good economic briefing beforehand, but there was no sense of anxiety. There was a sense of moving forward. There was a sense of mutual respect. There was a sense that we had shared interests. But I have seen what's going on in the Chinese economy. We can see what's going on with the shipments to the U.S. And again, we are the deficit country. Historically, the deficit country has a better negotiating position.
Mr. Secretary, part of China's plan over the last several years has been to manufacture far more goods than it can ever consume. it exports that not only to the United States, but to other countries around the world. Other countries like the United States and countries in Europe have felt like they're getting dumped on with all of these excess goods that are being manufactured. Will your talks in other countries find ways to make sure that China can't get around anything you set up in your deals with China by, let's say, shipping goods to Mexico and having that come up, those goods come up
this is a good
Mexico?
part.
How do you shut that down? And did that come up this weekend?
Well, Becky, that's already happening. That's already happening.
Yep.
With many goods. You know, it's happening with autos. It's happening with electronics. So that's part of the negotiation with the Mexican government. It's part of our overall strategy. And Chinese have an economic plan called dual circulation. And with dual circulation, our goal is to make sure dual circulation means export and domestic use. Dual circulation cannot mean that China overproduces and that only Chinese goods are consumed in China and then they export the excess to the rest of the world. So we have had the equivalent, because of these high tariff rates, of an embargo on China, and those goods are going to leak to the rest of the world. So, you know, our negotiations, we don't need to tell other countries what they need to do. They are seeing this wave of Chinese goods coming to their shore. They have to find a home, and that could be at a discount price, undercutting local producers.
So he's literally saying here, yeah, that's already been happening. That's been happening where they're dumping into Mexico and these other places. But if they start dumping into Europe, if they start dumping into other Asiatic countries, if they start dumping into, well, I mean, nobody cares about Africa, but like Central America and other areas, again, like Mexico, Canada, and other places, then they could destroy their local industry by doing the same thing that they've been doing to us. We've literally diverted it from the United States to these countries and said, oh, hey, you think all this is fair? How do you fucking like it? That's what we've done. And they're getting dumped on now. And for them, it's worse because we're 1/3 of the consumer base for the entire fucking planet. And all of that buying power is gone. And now it's been directed to where, okay, we've got to dump this shit on these other places for lower prices in order to be able to get rid of it and keep from going bankrupt. And that is going to be catastrophic for these other countries, which is why countries like even Russia and parts of Europe, the UK, all over the place, they're tariffing the shit out of China right now, including Vietnam and other places, because they have to. They can't have this. And so we are winning. We are winning.
Mr. Secretary, I have a
Will Ferrell would do a great Scott Bessent. He would.
question for you, which is the market's obviously very happy about this morning. I think the global economy is quite happy about what you've been able to accomplish over the weekend. The question I would ask is how what you've accomplished over the weekend squares to some extent with some of the things that we've heard over the past couple of months from the administration about what the tariffs ultimately could do to both box out China, put pressure on them to do other things for us, to create meaningful additional revenues in the form of tariffs, and perhaps most importantly, to force manufacturing back to the United States. And so by lowering these tariff rates, to some degree, I'm sure there are critics who would say that it upends some of those goals.
Well, again, Andrew, this is just a pause. The April 2nd tariff level for China was 34%. So we have moved that down from 34 to 10. We still have the 20% fentanyl tariffs that were put on in February. So we just in 2025, we have added 30%. And again, one of the most important things that we're doing, we do not want a generalized decoupling from China, but what we do want is a decoupling for strategic necessities, which we were unable to obtain.
And they have forced the hand of all corporations that know that they're working with critical minerals or critical infrastructure or security. Anybody who's working with things that we know we need in the future, they know that at a moment's notice, we could tighten the grip and hurt them and crush China. So you know what they're doing? They're fucking exiting en masse.
During COVID, and we realized that efficient supply chains were not resilient supply chains. So we are going to create our own steel, protect our steel industry, the work on critical medicines, on semiconductors. So we are doing that, and the reciprocal tariffs have nothing to do with the specific industry tariffs.
We heard, Mr. Secretary, that some progress was made on fentanyl.
He's saying more tariffs to come.
And that deal, and that's 20% of the tariff that's going to stay. What progress was made, and how do you see that happening over the next 90 days? And do you expect a deal can be reached? And what does it look like? What do you want China to do exactly with fentanyl?
Stop.
Joe, this is a priority for President Trump and indeed the whole administration. I have a personal stake in this. The two very close friends lost children to this terrible scourge. Hundreds of thousands of Americans die every year. And I think that we saw here in Geneva that the Chinese are now serious about assisting the U.S. in stopping the flow of.
By assisting the U.S., they mean de-incentivizing what the Chinese government is doing to encourage that these drugs make their way to the United States. These guys are the CCP is in bed with cartel members and Mexico and all around, okay? It's very much purposeful. Also, guys, I don't know if we have to go under 104 for a long period of time. If you look, there is a neckline right here. If you look in the bottom right corner, guys, I'm going to draw this. I'm going to put it in yellow, and then I'm going to turn it to a 1X. But there's a neckline right here. We're right at it. I think we want to break above it. And I think when we break above it, it's off to the races. And I think that could be happening today. So I don't even know if we have to go lower, but we could. And if we do, it just means that for a change, altcoins and miners and proxies for Bitcoin, maybe MicroStrategy slows down a hair. It is up 80% in a month. So it's done all right, but we've got really good things in front of us. And we're just going to fly. All right, let's let Bessent finish up here. He's got a couple minutes.
Precursor drugs, because the Chinese brought their trade delegation, led by the vice premier, but they also brought a deputy minister for security who was their fentanyl expert. We brought someone from our national security staff, and they had a very long and in-depth sidebar about how our two countries could work together.
As far as some of the non-tariff related barriers that you talk about making progress on, we just had one of our reporters, Eunice, from Beijing, just sort of talking about how the Chinese view things. They said, yeah, you know, we might talk a good, I'm paraphrasing, we might talk a good game and promise some things, but it's very hard to quantify or to put into writing some of those other issues, whether it's rare metals, even currency manipulation. How would that be affected over the next 90 days? What type of agreement could you reach that has actual teeth for the non-tariff barriers?
Well, Joe, these aren't problems that have sprung up overnight. They sprung up over 40 years. So Ambassador Jameson Greer, USTR, has a book this thick of all the non-tariff barriers, and then also of the state subsidies for labor and for industry. So we've got a playbook. President Trump successfully executed a deal in his first term. I think we can build on that, and that's the purpose of the 90-day pause, to see what we can do and work on these non-tariff barriers, because China actually has low tariffs. It's the insidious non-tariff trade barriers that hurt American companies trying to do business there. And make no mistake, one of the goals here is to open China for American businesses in a fair way. We want American businesses to be able to sell into China And part of the goal is bringing down these unfair non-tariff trade barriers, and that's what we will be focusing on.
Mr. Secretary, this is a 90-day pause. What comes next?
Again, one of the big things that we want to do is actually get trade to where we can start having companies being able to trade into China, get business into China, have them open up these barriers and let down the wall. That's a big ask. I don't know if that's going to happen. If we only get 30 or 50%, let's say we re-escalate again and we got 50% tariffs, but we don't have an embargo anymore, but stuff is still coming across. A lot of Chinese companies are paying the costs of it. The amount of inflation that's rolling over into this country is minimal, and it's not as impactful, and it doesn't offset or increase the CPI because we've got all these other factors pulling it down, like shelter and insurance and lower medical expenses and prescription drugs and all these other things that can help with that process, along with exported Chinese deflation, because that's definitely a thing, and it just becomes a better world. For sure. Am I taking profits? Yeah, I might take about 0.4%. I might, if things get crazy, I might take a whole percent in profits today, which would be something like, I don't know. I think I'm hitting 4 million right now. So maybe $40,000 that I'll cash out today. If things get really crazy, maybe I'll cash out a little bit more. Maybe I'll get $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 out and be sitting. I should be sitting at least over $100,000 in cash. By the end of today. Actually, by this morning, I've got a few orders in. Also, BGZ said, I should break even on my Tesla 618 2026 at 330s today. Would you trim a little or let them ride? I would run the options profit calculator on them and see if it makes sense to let them ride. Is the multiplier to the upside good enough? Once you kind of hit your target, you've got diminishing returns because you have the extrinsic value, which is, again, the time-based value, and then you have the intrinsic value, which is I'm in the money, and you start to see diminishing returns once you cross that boundary. So maybe you'll want to cash those out and switch to like a TSLL in order to get the multiplier. Maybe it's better looking. So I would maybe check into that. That might be a decent idea. Arcadian says, Jeremy thinking of getting back in Tesla. Are you kidding? Is he? That wouldn't surprise me. He probably should.
Do you have plans to meet with your counterparts again?
Becky, as I said, the good thing is we had a plan, we had a process, now we have a meeting mechanism. We loosely christened it the Geneva mechanism, so I don't know where we'll meet again. A very agreeable meeting here. We got a lot done over 2 days, so I would imagine that in the next few weeks we will be meeting again to get rolling on a more fulsome agreement.
Mr. Secretary, we're the import country. Obviously, as you pointed out, China's the export country. And I believe some of what we're hearing about maybe some of the stress, the economic stress we're seeing in China. But we have had worries and concerns about this economic stress in this country. Is it still coming? In other words, have we just not seen it yet in terms of job losses or consumer confidence? Do you expect the next employment report to show any slowing? Is it not going to happen here, or we just haven't seen it yet, in your view?
Well, Joe, I don't see any reason that should happen because, look, I think with the tariffs, it's all a matter of calibration. That there were 20%, approximately 20% tariffs from President Trump's first term. Biden left those on. He liked the income from them. So we're still getting that. And that was done in 2 steps, roughly 10 and 10. And the market and the economy has had several years to adjust to that. The 20% fentanyl tariffs went on in February. So if we were going to see any kind of an economic downside from that, it would already be apparent, I would think, and the economic data has surprised on the upside. And now that we have brought these very high tariffs down to 10%, I think the markets, business people live in the future. So I think we can go through at that 10% baseline, which is very easy to calibrate with.
Very good. Mr. Secretary, appreciate your time this morning. We know you got a...
All right, so that was that, guys. I'm gonna real quickly. I'm gonna grab some more coffee. hit the boys' room. While I'm doing that for 5 minutes here, I'm going to let Eunice Yoon give you the Chinese perspective on this. And again, it's going to be a little more like we're tough and we got what we wanted. But I'm going to let you guys hear this real quick so you have some perspective on that, and then we're going to get back to it. So 1 second here.
Secretary Scott Bessent will join us in just a few minutes to talk about the trade breakthrough with China. In the meantime, let's get over to Eunice Yoon with reaction to this deal from Beijing. Eunice, good morning, good evening.
Good morning, Becky. Well, the outcome of the trade talks is being marketed here as a big win for China and really a reversal of President Trump's approach. The social media account that's linked to state TV has said that this proves that China's approach and firm countermeasures and stance, they say, has been highly effective. And a lot of this is because China got most of President Trump's tariffs off without actually having to do a whole lot. So China, of course, has to lift its own counter tariffs, but it's been quietly giving exemptions to a whole lot of companies. And then as part of this agreement, China has to suspend or cancel non-tariff measures against the U.S. So this would include the ones like tighter rare earths, tighter curbs, export curbs on rare earth minerals that are important for the U.S. industry. Another point is that they both have to agree to set up a consultation mechanism. So on the point about the non-tariff measures, they have to lift them, but there's no timing. There's no method. So, China doesn't necessarily have to commit to anything here. And then in terms of the consultation mechanism, one of the long-standing complaints among many in the international business community here is that China often acts like talking is action. And so they make a lot of promises, and there's a lot of promise fatigue, but that they don't actually do anything at the end of the day. So this is just playing right into China's playbook. And then the third point I would make is that China could present itself as though it's the more responsible actor here. And in fact, in the statement for the Commerce Ministry, they took a jab at the Trump administration, saying that the U.S. should completely correct, they say, its unilateral tariff practices. Again, presenting itself as more responsible compared to the United States.
Eunice, in this past hour, we spoke with Wendy Cutler, who was a former deputy U.S. trade representative. And one of the things we spoke about with her is there have been a lot of anti-China policies that have been kind of forced on other countries in the negotiations that the United States is having with them. A big part of the problem is China is producing so much more than it can possibly consume. And the United States and other countries feel like they have dumped a lot of goods on their countries. The United States doesn't want Chinese goods dropped into Mexico that then come across the border under the USMCA guidelines. That's a big part of this. Is China going to stand by while those sort of anti-China policies are put in place across the board?
No, and they already haven't. I mean, they've already been saying and warning other countries or hinting that they could take some sort of retribution.
She's got to really watch what she says here, okay? She lives in China. She's in Beijing, of all places, the home of Xi Jinping. So she's got to really walk a tightrope
against other countries if they do coordinate with the United States, because as you said, the U.S. has been, worried and concerned, as are a lot of other trading partners, about the massive overcapacity and that impacting a lot of other markets. But at the same time, the U.S. is not coordinating with those countries, so that's and putting tariffs on those countries, so that becomes an issue.
It can't continue, though.
What am I taking profits on? Real quickly. Sorry, Eunice. I love her, so I apologize. But probably a little bit of TSLL and a little bit of MSTX. Maybe some miners, maybe a little bit on the miners. I'll probably just grab a little bit. Again, I've made, I think I'm up 150% on MSTX. I mean, today I'm probably up even more. But let me just scroll down here. So let me increase this too. This is kind of hard to read. 1 second. Oh, Jesus, what is going on? I can't get my... sometimes my keyboard doesn't work with the whole expansion thing, so I got to do this. Sorry about that. So this is just one account, but I'm actually up more in others. So it's up at least 150, maybe 160%, which is a really good number. Again, the underlying from the bottom is up 80% just from where we're at the recent lows. So it's a good number. And TSLL has done a little bit, not as good. It's only up, I'm probably up about 50% today. Well, actually, it might be 60% today because we're going to be up 16% right at market open. So I'm taking a little bit of profit in these. And then again, Mara's up probably 60, 70% today. So that one's sitting really good. Still down on CleanSpark. It says 51%. It's probably in the 40s today. It might even get better than that. So things are coming back around. Again, miners were very brutal. ARKG hopefully gets a little bit of a bump today. It looks like it's up 5% in pre-market. SMCI should be in positive territory. There's a lot of things really turning around. So I'm taking little baby profits, though. Again, we've got a lot of different investments, and I'm expecting all of them to do really well. Let's let Eunice finish her thoughts here, and then I'll check out chat.
Eunice, I'm just wondering whether you can confirm this or hear anecdotally. Apparently 50% of export companies are expected.
Again, guys, I'm selling about 0.5% maybe of my portfolio to 1% today. That's how much I'm selling. So I'm not, very small amount.
To halt in China, expected to halt production or take extended breaks. Worker protests have erupted. Have you heard of those in various regions? Employees demanding unpaid wages amid economic strain. Thousands of businesses,
small amounts,
reportedly have been shuttered, and
So this is true. What he's saying is true. She's going to talk about anecdotes saying that it's not so that she can save her life. Eunice looks distressed in this interview. She's definitely having to walk the party line right now.
Manufacturing activity and PMI both plunging. Is all that true?
Yeah, so the export sector is hurting. But in terms of the factories shuttering, actually, they're not being shut down, or at least what I've just in my conversations with a lot of different factories, especially those that are working to sell stuff to the United States for Christmas, they're all going to sleep. They're in hibernation. So they're actually paying their workers the basic pay, which is about $350 a month. And they're waiting for this just very moment to be able to turn the factories back on, because they were all preparing to just work, just to kind of stay in there and survive until the U.S. and China relationship changed.
They're going to sleep. Yeah, these people can't pay their fucking bills either, because some of these manufacturing employees haven't gotten paid in 3 months or 6 if you work for a government-run organization. The more affiliated you are with the CCP, the more you're getting fucked right now. Unless you're really high up on the food chain, and they're coming after those people too. Those people end up getting imprisoned and having all their wealth stolen from them. That's why there's such massive capital flight.
So, I mean, there are reports, as you said, of some worker protests, but it's not necessarily because of the tariffs. And also there were, I'm sure that there are some factories that have gone under, and of course all of them are having problems. But a lot of it is that they're in hibernation.
Yeah, we actually said any deal we see, both sides are going to have to save face, and so it's probably not unexpected what we're hearing from you, and then what we're hearing over here. Eunice Yoon, I want to thanks Eunice.
Eunice is a sweetie, but again, she has to follow the party line. I think that's the thing you need to get out of that, okay? Looks like we got other people talking, not too much going on there. Let me just look at the crypto bubbles here. More evenly distributed. It looks like a lot of green. Not hating any of that. Let's look at the stock heat map. Just still retarded. Amazon is up 8.32%, beating Tesla, which is up 8.09. Any thoughts about buying into HIMS today? I'm not really interested in HIMS. It could be a great business model. It might do really well. I kind of feel like maybe it could get hurt by some of the stuff that's going on. But if we look over here at HIMS, VIX peeping below 20. Yeah, no, below 20 is beautiful. Real quickly, let me just segue to that. So the VIX, guys, it's just an utter flush, right? And we've talked about this before. Way back here in 2008, great financial crisis, VIX way up at the top. When it trends down for a very long time, and you make shit tons of money. Again, it even peaked up here a little bit in 2011. Really didn't hit its low until 2014, and all you did was just make money. Then we had a little bit of a pop. Everybody got scared in July of 2015. I don't even remember why. And then it went down again for years. And then we had a big pop in 2018. This is when the Fed decided to get creative and start raising interest rates. to see if they could. That didn't work out well. They cut that shit out super fast. Several more years of upside price action. Then we had the pandemic, peaked out over here. Then again, several more years of upside price action till the end of 2021, where the Fed decided to be a dipshit and go from transitory to raising rates at the most aggressive rate in history. That kind of sucked. Then we had Silicon Valley Bank collapses and shit like that. And we had a big spike again. And then more recently, we had the Independence Day spike. But you know what the trend is going to be for the next several years based upon all of the history of the VIX? This down. And if the VIX is going down, that means we're making fucking money. And the bonds don't look much different than that. So we like what's happening on the VIX. We like the fact that nobody gives a fuck about Bitcoin. We like the fact that the stock heat map looks like this today. These are all big and beautiful things. But yeah, getting back to HIMS, the thing I don't like is the forward PE ratio of 84.75. It feels a little hot to me. But again, this is a good growth company. If they can keep up the revenue growth like we're seeing here, $586 million in Q1 of 2025, you jump back a year, here to Q1 of 2024, 278. 278, 586. That's a good 100% jump. So I love that. Yeah, VIX gap down today. Yeah, it's beautiful. You love seeing that. So 300% profit growth year over year, 111% revenue. That all looks pretty to me. It's not an asymmetric bet right now. It would have been if you owned it a while ago. So I'm not as interested in this. I'm really interested in Bitcoin. I'm really interested. Somebody was even talking Soxel. We'll talk about that. Market Maestro was talking about that. That's a 3x fund for the chip sector. I think chips are going to do pretty fucking good, but again, we're going to have tariffs coming on those soon, so I'm not sure I'm interested in stepping into that play, but he had a really good chart that we'll probably look at in a little bit. Good morning. Thoughts on NVIDIA options play today? I'm not looking at it today. I want to see what happens with the chips because, again, they haven't gotten their full tariffs yet. We're looking at more tariffs on chips, so I want to see how that plays out. Victor said, MB, yeah, man, I have found out I'm better giving advice than taking my own action. My wife bought HIMS at 13 because I told her so. Yeah, you have none. That happens sometimes, man. That happens. Let's see here. William probably less. Victor, okay, but his mention of 60% gain for Mara must be options. Yes, that is options. That's true. So I have made... I've got a couple different contracts, and I've done really well off of them. Looks like a total of $300,000 under this account in a very short period of time. So yeah, that is from options. Jesse, opinions on KDLY being shilled by Saylor. What is KDLY? Is it another Bitcoin? Is another Bitcoin fund, like recent fund? He just always tries to support anybody that does that. I don't know that it's a good deal just because he says it. Iron's up 6%. It's doing all right. It's doing all right if we look over here. It's about 745 now, right now, guys. Let's check a few things real quick before we look at Iron. Let's look at the Fear and Greed Index. Have no hodl, which is not good. You've been buying Micron, says Chris. Yeah, not having a hodl sucks. So again, guys, we're getting in greed. That's why I'm taking some cash today. 0.5% to 1%. Those aren't big numbers that I'm looking to take. If I get crazy, let's say I have a really profitable day, maybe I go 1.5% profits, maybe 2. Who fucking knows? I might get nuts, but I'm just going to be happy having 6 figures in cash. I think that's probably good for now. Once we get to extreme greed, though, maybe I want 300, 400,000, maybe $500,000 in cash. Very possible. Very possible. We'll see how it goes, where we're at. I do think Bitcoin is near a breakout. It could consolidate for a bit. I'm liking where we're at. I'm liking the macro setup right now a lot. So we'll see. So up 540%, lol. What's up 540%? KDLY. Oh, I'm sorry. It was $3.90 and it's $25.20. Do not touch that. Let the dust settle. That's my recommendation. Let the fucking dust settle. Let's real quickly though. So again, Fear and Greed's telling us we're getting a little more little more greedy, right? Which is a nice change of pace because we were deep into the fear. Also, if we look at some other stuff, we'll look at the indices later. We've got oil, though, sitting at 63. Let's just pop through a few different things here. We got oil sitting at 63. Nice pop. Again, I expect this to roll over and go lower. Maybe that doesn't happen, though, if I honestly didn't think that we would get to an agreement with China so quickly. I knew China was in pain, but I didn't know that they'd be willing to try and work with us. And a 30% tariff is still a tariff. And we can bring that pain back in a fucking heartbeat. If we do, oil continues to drop. If we don't, maybe oil starts to pop and go up, and that's going to be perfectly okay. Again, we've had low oil prices for a while, low gas prices for a while. All good stuff, in my opinion. The dollar gaining a little bit of strength, but I still think it's going to weaken. I think that's going to be a part of this Mar-a-Lago Accord. Again, we're in an area where it can still break down and go lower. I'm actually probably going to bring this down to here because I really don't care about getting notified until it is. And then right here, and so I'll just save that out. But I don't see the dollar gaining a lot in strength because I think it's a deliberate move by the Treasury Secretary to get it lower. So I'm not seeing that. I did want to show gold, though, guys, and I posted about this earlier. And then we'll get caught up in some news stuff here, too. But gold had a double top. This is like a W bottom if you reverse it. So I like to reverse and invert the scale every once in a while. If I saw this on a chart, I would get very excited about its upward potential. But since I'm not seeing it on a chart in this way, and it's instead inverted, I'm pessimistic about its potential, and I'm thinking that it can drop. And so I'm changing this to red, and I'm telling you guys, I think we can get down to the 3,000, maybe 3,050, or all the way down to like 3,000-ish range. But probably starting at least to here. The measured move is down to the low 3,000s. So I think gold can do that before it makes another leg higher. I think that's very true. Jesse, can you please check bearish RSI divergence on the Bitcoin 4-hour chart? Yeah, I don't really worry about it. I'm not worried about it. Honestly, I'm not worried about it. There is some, and it can break down. And could we go to 100, maybe even 98? Yes, we could. I'm not worried about it. I don't care about it. I think proxies still outperform. So even if we drop like that, I think that proxies are still going to go up. I think they're going to go up because we're in a risk-on environment where we're seeing really positive signs from a very, very bearish stance for a while. So I'm not worried about it. But iron, yeah, look at this. So iron's getting ready to maybe this is an inverted head and shoulders that we're looking at. It's not done yet. It would have to play out, and it means that we would have to go up maybe a little bit higher and then drop more, and that's possible. But if it ended up doing that, we're looking at a move that could bring us into the 11 range. A lot of upside here, right? A lot of upside between here and here, and let's just move this up. So if we saw just that measured move get completed, it gets us into a nice pocket on the side over here, and that's a 57% move. I got options on this bitch. So that could be 150, 200% just with that move. And that would be a beautiful thing to see. So loving this. Again, on Discord, you can get access to these charts. And I try and save them here and keep them updated. 1 second. I think that was my daughter, but maybe it's my wife coming back. Because now that I think about it, my daughter's probably already at school. Anyway, just wanted to say hi to her. So yeah, iron looks good. I want to look at some others here real quick too. So let's look at MSTR. Again, MSTR could be getting toppy, so I'm looking to take a little bit off the table. If you look right over here, we're in the 420s range. We could get all the way up to like 438 before we hit that next fib line. That would be a good time to take a break. But again, it could even go up higher. If it goes higher to 458, that would be a beautiful sign. We could maybe drop down here into the 400 range and then end up going higher. That would be an inverse head and shoulders. If it ends up playing that way, it doesn't have to. But if it ends up playing out that way, we could measure that move from here conservatively and then measure that out. And that gets us into a move where we're in the 700s, somewhere between, the 600s and the 700s. That's a hell of a measured move. I think that can happen in a very short period of time. SPY option play today. I don't deal with SPY options because it's not enough movement for me, and I don't do short time frames. I do leaps. So I don't really care about that. But yeah, this measured move, I mean, again, it gets us into the 700s. I love it. I think that's a really great thing. And again, we've got a little bit of resistance on this. If we look at the RSI, we can see that we're getting up near there. So again, if we get up into the 440 range, technically we're going to be getting near overbought territory. But as you look back here, I'm not really worried about overbought conditions until they get closer to the 87 range on the RSI. That's when I'm more concerned about them because of this downward trend line that goes all the way back to 2021. And so the beginning of 2021. So that's where I would get more concerned that this thing is really overbought and probably be looking to be like 100% out of MSTX and maybe just an MSTR or maybe some MSTY, probably MSTR, maybe a little bit of Strife or IBIT once we get to that level. And that level doesn't even have to come, guys, until like the 640. That would probably be the range where we hit that. Is the 640 range, right, where we hit the golden retracement zone off this trend extension. So if I'm 100% out at this, that means it's went up 54% from where we are this morning, or 55% from where we are this morning. And that probably gives me upwards of 150% returns, maybe more on my MSTX, of which I have almost between MSTX and MSTU about $1 million. So that means I've made $1.5 million, and that could happen in weeks, maybe a month or two. And that would be great. And then I could just go into the base asset and ride that a little bit more. Sela says, in 2020, I was so dumb. Missed the wild fun after the brief crash. Yeah, that happens. A lot of people stray away for a while. That's pretty normal behavior. Or miss out just because of bad timing because they don't know what they're doing. That's pretty normal stuff. There's nothing crazy about that. Again, MicroStrategy up roughly 3,000 this cycle, 3,000%. That's a hell of a number. Hell of a number. And Josh Mandel did a great job getting that. All right, so anyway, MicroStrategy's out. I'll real quickly run over to Mara. We can just look at all the miners real quick too. So again, we're up here. We could honestly get to about 17. If we get Mara to 17, I'm probably looking to maybe take out 5% of my position. Did you say Strife or Strike? I don't know. I might do a combination of both. And again, IBIT too, which is the BlackRock Bitcoin ETF. I'm looking to slowly remove multipliers as I make a bunch of money, and I got a lot of multipliers right now. Yeah, so anyway, I think we could get up to here where we get the 200 moving average on the daily time frame, or maybe even a little bit higher towards 1783, where we hit peak volumes going all the way back to since the beginning of time. So that could be an area where we slow down. Might not be a bad idea to take a little bit of cash. Again, 5% of my position would be nothing, especially if it's went up 50 by that time and just recently, because again, I'm already up 50%. So if I'm up 100% on that position and I've got, $1.5 million on Mara, I don't think it's a big deal to take 5% off the table, maybe 10. Mike said, I did not deleverage properly going into the end of 2024. I won't make that mistake again. Yeah, I got a little excited with Trump too, but I also didn't know that he was going to raise rates at the most aggressive rate. Sorry, I'm so stuck in that Fed talk. I didn't know that Trump would raise tariffs to the degree that he was, and I don't know that anybody did. I mean, did anybody know that? I don't know that. I guess the White House knew it. There were some people that knew it and probably de-risked based on it, but I didn't fucking know it. So again, always good to take some risk off the table. I was almost at 7 million for like a minute, and that was very exciting. But we're getting back there. I should be over 4 today. All right. And again, just so much upside sitting in front of us. Yeah, there's a ton of people. All the mics, the JT, a ton of people are in that same boat. What I feel bad for are the people that didn't do that, like you're talking about, and then de-risked at the bottom or near the bottom, and now everything's going up. I feel bad for those people. That really fucking sucks. That is not what you want to see. And it blows if you're in that category. So I feel bad for those people. If you just didn't de-risk, but you're still in, that's still better than not de-risking and then getting out at the wrong number. Anyway, we're up here. So again, right near that gap zone, you can see how these gaps are so good. We're in clean spark now. These gaps are beautiful areas. We could easily get up to $10. And we kind of did that last week. We could even go up higher here to the 100 moving average around the 1054 range. That would be a nice area to kind of pump to. Again, on the weekly time frame and even the daily time frame, we got really our first big breakout from a trend that was, almost a half a year ago, downtrend. And then we got another trend that goes back over a year, about 16, 17 months ago. Is it 16? Yeah, we're around 16, 15 to 16. And so these are changing, like we're starting to take off, and this is going to be beautiful stuff. The more people see that these proxies are outperforming, and they know that Q2 is going to be a really good one for the miners versus what Q1 was, markets are forward looking. They're happy about that. They're going to be ready to capitalize off of it. I would not be surprised to see a 45% move in clean spark in weeks. If not worst case months. I could see a 70% move in months, getting us up to the 16 and maybe even the $20 range in the next month or two. And if that happens and we're up almost 100%, I'm making 300 to 400% on my options. I've got millions of dollars in clean spark, millions of dollars in Mara, and millions of dollars that were in MSTX. Alone, I should be already past 7 million, maybe 8 million, 9 million in the next 2 months. Ideally, I hope 10 million in the next few months. That's what I'm shooting for. And so I think there's a lot of good stuff coming for the people that were patient. The people that were not are not going to be as blessed with such things. But that's all a part of the process. There's people that make the ride, and there's people that jump off. And again, these markets, they test your psychology, they test your grit. It's just the way that it works. And the more grit you got, the better. That's my superpower. It took me many years to realize it, but grit is my superpower. Whenever things look their worst and it looks like I'm going to fail at life, that is where I get stronger. And it's a blessing that I found that in life. I used not to think I was that person, but somewhere along the way I stopped shit talking myself and started believing in it. All right, real quickly, let's jump over here. So the economic calendar. Yeah, the worst thing you can have in life, guys, is an inner voice that's defeatist. You don't want that. So it looks like all Fed talk today. We do have the Treasury purchases from 4 to 6 years. That might be interesting at 9:30, but I'll be gone before that. WASD reporting is always interesting. We'll probably see a bunch of people reporting on that do really good analysis. I'll repost it on X. That's all good. So really, we don't have anything today. Optimism index tomorrow. Again, optimism probably poor. Maybe it gets a little bit better. Again, it's going to be delayed for April. So the next reading will probably be good. This one's probably still pessimistic. 7:30 core inflation data. I always like the year over year. You know me. Inflation in there too. CPI in there. Red Book. Total household debt. All these are going to be interesting numbers. Tomorrow should be fun. And then we've got 30-year mortgage and a bunch of mortgage stuff on Wednesday. So really the big stuff is Tuesday, probably Thursday and Friday. PPI, Philly Fed, all the manufacturing shit. Lots of stuff on Thursday. And then Friday, again, export, import prices, Michigan data. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. Foreign bond investment, overall net capital flows, net long-term. But those are late on Friday. So we won't get those until at the close of the bell. But this is all good stuff, man. This is we got Tuesday and Friday. Tuesday, Thursday, Friday are going to be the big days. JT, my best friend, is up 110% on HIMS. Is less than a month. Never invested. Trusted me and told to buy. He owes me, a gin and tonic. Yeah, he does. JT, brother, if that was me, I'd be buying you Wagyu Kobe steak dinner. Yeah, that too, for sure. Victor, meanwhile, I'm down 25% in clean spark. Hey, man, that might not be the case today. So you're going to be up. You're going to be doing better today. Trust me. It's always one of those things where if you're patient enough, it ends up coming around and you end up doing really good. And with a pre-market that looks like this, I'd say things are in pretty good shape. 8:01, we still got 30 minutes to the bell. Let's jump over. I didn't do a good job today with bookmarking everything, so we're just going to kind of run through some of the latest bookmarks. If anybody's got anything really new that they're interested in, let me know. otherwise, I'm just going to kind of roll through, and it's not even going to be bookmarks. It's just going to be posts. Again, I didn't get this updated. This is a little over a week old, but I'm not at 3.6. I'm probably at 4 today. So again, sitting like right over here, getting closer to that number. And I yes, I was at 6.95 this year, but it was like for a minute. Off of a really good day where I was up like probably $1.5 million or something close to it. So really, in actuality, 99% of my career, this is closer to the reality of my high. And then with me being up here, we're getting really close to it. We're getting really close to it off of things that are leveraged now and have a long way to go to get to their all-time high. Kamawa, Jesse, kindly look at TMDX. It's my top play. What is it again? Can you remind me? So again, if you're just coming here, Metaplanet bought like 1,200 or something Bitcoin over the weekend. BTC bought from Strategy was 13,400. Between the two of these, they bought almost 15,000 Bitcoin. That's significant because in a week, they bought essentially a month's worth of new supply of Bitcoin. Two companies. All right. And then Scott Bessent again today said, we want American companies to be able to sell in China. I think that's pretty important. We got Galley saying Waymo doing $250 million in revenue off of a 1,500 car fleet. Tesla only needs a few thousand robo-taxis in operation to be doing billions in revenue. Yep, that seems pretty cool. Soxel, again, this is that 3X play for the chip sector. It looks like it found its low. It's got a trend line here that goes back to 2018. The end of 2018, and it shows that this is a key support zone. I'd be willing to bet that Market Maestro is right here and that this is a bounce zone. So if you wanted to, I haven't looked at what the options contracts look like for this thing, but if we're really in the 14, 15 range and it can go to 40 really quick, that might be a good asymmetric bet. Am I playing Metaplanet? No, I'm not. But I've already got so many asymmetric Bitcoin proxy related plays. Not really in the mood. But this looks interesting from a chip standpoint. Again, I've already got SMCI. I've got, what do I have in that? This says 60,000, but today it's probably more like 80. So getting close to six figures on this contract. And this contract goes way out there, guys. December of 2026 gives me a lot of time to get to 120. Right now, SMCI is at 32. This thing gets to 120. I made lots of fucking money. Yeah, I know Chicken Genius sold MicroStrategy to buy Metaplanet. He probably wanted a multiplier, basically, on MicroStrategy earnings, because MicroStrategy is kind of like a large cap, and Metaplanet's kind of like the small cap. He'll probably end up doing better on Metaplanet. I just haven't made the move, and I don't really know if I care to. Again, there are some downsides to that, too. You are looking at a higher multiple. So if I refresh over here on Metaplanet and I look at the net asset value or the premium to NAV, it is at a premium, and I'm waiting for it to update here. We'll see if it does. Doesn't seem to want to. Let me refresh it again, see if I can get it. Last I checked, though, it was at 3.3 and might be even higher than that today. Oh, no, it's lower now. It's actually better. It's 2.76. So that's a better premium, but you know what? That's because they did a bunch of buying of Bitcoin over the weekend. I don't know if this is fully updated, but if I go back over here, let me just see. I'll refresh this and see what Strategy's at. Oh, this is the acceleration model. This isn't what I'm looking for. Let me switch this over to Strategy real quick. So Strategy is at 2.2 with dilution. 1.96 with basic. So I'm liking right now Strategy a little bit more than I'm liking Metaplanet, at least as far as the NAV, the premium. But again, it's Strategy though. Strategy has a huge market cap. It's a huge market cap. What is it? Does it show it in here? Let me see. I don't think it does. MicroStrategy right now, pre-Bell, is $114 billion market cap. And I don't know, does anybody in chat know what Metaplanet is? I think it's a fraction of that. So, again, it's one of those things where you're probably getting a bigger multiplier with Metaplanet. That's probably why Chicken Genius did it. Well-capitalized TMX, or TMDX equals bad company culture. I don't know the company. IWM at 209 pre-market. Awesome. Why do people think Waymo is the way to go? Their cars are like 200. Yeah, they're like 160,000 a piece. with all the gear, 150, 160. And Tesla is going to be making a cyber cab that's probably like 20, 25, probably 25. So you got 25 versus 160,000. Those metrics do not work well for Waymo. Waymo costs Waymo. So you don't want to touch that shit. It's not worth it. All right, so let's keep going. So Soxel might be a play that I'm looking at. That's what I wanted to throw out there. I really want to know kind of how we're sitting, though, on those tariffs, guys, with the chip sector. And again, we talked about grit. I just wanted to show this post real quick. You got to have 4 a.m. courage. I'm going to play this real quick. This is something that I've gained over hard work and many failures in life. And I highly recommend that if you want to succeed in life, be okay with failure and have grit.
But if you want to see if you're a brave person,
loud.
What they call the 4 o'clock in the morning courage, wait when things go completely to pieces, when things are the worst, when your very best deal falls apart and your rent is late and you're tired and you're sick and everybody is mad at you and your car doesn't work, then it's the person that picks themselves up and says, nothing is going to stop me. You know, the best quality in the world that you can develop is to develop the quality of being unstoppable. Develop the quality of being unstoppable. Say in yourself that no matter what life throws at me, it'll never stop me. No matter how rough it gets, I will never quit, and nothing will ever stop me. And believe me, if you decide to go for the goal in your life, you're going to get knocked down over and over and over and over again. But without those obstacles, no success is possible. Make the decision that you can be tired, you can be worn out, but nothing is ever going to stop you. Give it your best shot. It's the basis of self-esteem. But if you want to
100%. So you guys got to have that. Somebody was talking about the 10-year. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. And I'll tell you why it's still dropping. And here's one reason. This is one reason. It's got a bearish divergence on the RSI that goes back to May of 2022. So 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025, 3 fucking years of bearish divergence want to pull this bitch down. And we're talking about the Fed removing QT in the future. We're talking about the potential for quantitative easing. We're talking about rates getting lower. We're talking about removing tariffs. We're talking about all these good things that are showing that the U.S. is a good place to invest in. And again, there's things that we're going to be talking about in a second from Michael Howell, where we're looking to do things like, again, shorter dated issuance, China exporting deflation and turning on the money printer, all the QE stuff that I talked about that's going to pull this yield down. And Michael Howell believes it, and he's a very smart person. He did not lead me astray. He allowed me to be very rich at the end of 2022 and into 2023. That's where I made all my Palantir money, all my Meta money, all my Tesla money. And then many others like Hood and others that followed. So it's because of him, and he's telling us that everything is going to be good. Tesla, these are chargers. Every question mark in here, guys, is chargers that they're looking to build across Europe. And then if you go into here even more, you can see the ones they already have. The infrastructure is being built for Tesla. Again, in Wokeness Put, Thursday, US-UK sign a deal. Almost everybody's forgotten about that already. Saturday, India-Pakistan ceasefire. And again, 10% tariffs still on the UK with that deal and getting them to buy a bunch of our stuff, including energy and, again, agriculture. And then the India-Pakistan nuclear potential war that came to an end is fucking amazing. Sunday, China-U.S. trade deal reached. Tuesday, Trump to visit the Middle East. Thursday, Putin, Zelensky to finally meet. Amazing things are happening. Let's talk about the shit show that was Pakistan. Chinese technologies in this operation. 9 terror camps were initially targeted with hundreds of terrorists killed. But in the counteroffensive, 11 air bases were hit by India hitting in Pakistan. 500 plus Chinese and Turkish drones were taken out. A half a dozen jets were taken out. Chinese JF-17s, J-10Cs, and U.S. F-16s. Again, they've got a small amount. Pakistan has a small amount of U.S. military weaponry. But the most of the stuff that was taken out was Chinese equipment, not the U.S. F-16s, which are old as fuck anyway. Multiple air defense systems of Pakistan have been destroyed. Pakistan is just a front line or testing ground for China and Washington to study. And you know what we found? India won. Pakistan got their fucking asses handed to them. That's what we wanted to see. That's what China saw. And imagine how much that scares them. Bitcoin historian says Panama City mayor, again, my wife is from Panama, so I'm very fond of it, but he said that the country will have a national Bitcoin reserve within a year. That's beautiful. Again, I said I think China for sure opens up liquidity more, and that the USA will choose shorter dated bills while working to get the Fed to remove QT and potentially start QE. If one of these things happens, we'll see increased liquidity. If they all happen, watch out. And this is off of a post that I took from Cross Border Capital that has his Substack that shows all this cool stuff. And then he was talking about what he thinks can happen and how global liquidity could slow, but how he believes that the alternative is that we're going to see liquidity ramping up between now and the end of the year. And I believe that to be very, very true. Bitcoin at over 104,200, getting ready to take off. Looks good, guys. So I'm not going to read all of this, but again, if you're subscribed to me on X, you can see that little last couple paragraphs that I think are really important for what Michael Howell had to say. I laughed at this comment because it says Chinese social media accounts are now blaming Pakistan for poor handling of its weapon system. I think that's fucking great. I said, for the record, Josh Mandel made a shit ton of money off of his trade. He can exit whenever the fuck he wants. And this is just Josh getting shit on by people saying that you panic sell, brother. He made 15x his money. He went from 2 million to 30 million. Show the man some fucking respect. Also, if you guys could like on this post and share, that is amazing. And if you guys could like on the YouTube videos, it's a huge help to me. Again, I want to spread the message and I want to help people out. We got to 1,235 people watching this. Actually, 1,240 people watching this today. That was awesome. If you could hit the like, if you can comment afterwards, it helps the video. And I'm greatly indebted to you. AJ said, I recommend to everyone who betted against the new administration to change course now. Just accept that you were brainwashed, thinking they would crash the economy. Take your loss and move on. This will save you from more losses. Yes, I know you're betting right now that upcoming economic data will be bad, but everyone knows it and also knows that this is stale data now with the China trade deal, i.e. akin to looking in the rearview mirror. Except at this point, you are just holding on to hope or bet on black swan. I predict that markets will look past now stale April data published soon. Paradoxically, consider that the U.S. hasn't had more technocratic government perhaps ever. This is a game changer. Don't let your personal feelings destroy your wealth by betting against them. In many ways, the U.S. leadership caught up with China's making the U.S. once again a formidable force. I believe strongly, personally, that we are doing everything right now in order to be able to make us a very wealthy country in the future. And if you believe that we can still fuck it up, then you should own Bitcoin proxies. Otherwise, you should be owning Tesla and you should be owning a bunch of other stuff. I happen to just own a lot of everything. And so I got asymmetric bets looking to pop all over the fucking place. So I'm stoked. Gold, again, I posted this to subscribers on X. You could see what happened the last time we had a little bit of parabola here. It trended sideways to down for a year and a half, almost 2 years. You could see over here in 2012, 11, roughly when we peaked, we had a big old drop. The bottom wasn't even found until 2016. We didn't get back to this number again until 2020. It took 3,135 days to hit a new peak on this. Then the next one peaked in 2021 when the Fed raised rates at the most aggressive rate in history. We didn't really find the bottom again. Again, we kind of double topped over here. We found the bottom, and then we came back up. We didn't hit new all-time highs again on gold for another 1,300 fucking days. And then I called the top over here within days of the top on gold and told you guys to get the fuck out. Some of you listened. And the ones that did, we could find another 1,000 days, guys. Another 1,000 days, another 500 days. Heck, maybe it's only 60 to 90 days and we end up going higher because the world's fucked. I don't think the world's fucked, But I do think that if you're going to enter gold, you want to do it closer to 3,000, and you want to be patient as fuck because it could take forever to see that money again. I also think that we could go down to the 2,000s, the low 2,000s, maybe even the 2,300s. So I think you want to be cautious on that. Real quickly, guys, I got to hit the restroom again. Looks like Bitcoin could be breaking out. I'm going to drop this over. We've got about 14 minutes until the bell tolls. I'm going to let you guys listen to Cramer for just a second here, okay? Give me 1 minute.
Transparency, and perhaps that'll be enough. I don't know.
I don't know either, but I do know that I'm not going against Cuban, who studied this business really closely. He knows too much.
Meantime, the congressional calculus is different this time than when Trump first tried this in the first term.
Well, I mean, look, I think that it's very interesting because I'm not sure. Everyone favors lower drug prices. So, you're a sucker if you come and say, listen, drug prices are fine, unless you're from the senator from, I don't know, Indiana, Lilly, and a couple of places in New Jersey.
No, but you should. I mean, there's a window these companies have to get paid for all of the risks they're taking, the capital they're investing, both in their own science and even more so in the companies they buy, whose science they buy along with it. And it's a precarious balance you've got to keep an eye on. And why should GLP-1s be more in the UK than we pay here? Why? I'm sorry. Yeah, less. More here and less in the UK.
Well, no, because they argue because they're here, intellectual property belongs here, and they have to.
Why should we be subsidizing them?
I agree with you, but I keep saying that the big problem are the PBMs. They make the most.
I don't know enough.
Then check in with Mark Cuban because he does.
Have you checked with Grok?
I gotta go to Grok later today. I'm on a bunch of things. Let me go.
Let's put it in Grok.
Hopefully that wasn't too painful.
Let's stop talking about.
Let's Grok.
Remember to tell him who you are.
Okay, I'll tell him
because
who I am.
Is he playing with Grok? Is that what I just saw? Are they grokking? I fucking love that if they are. I thought I heard Grok. Anyway, hey Jesse, MSTY, a good time at the top, or MSTR, or stay with Strife for now. I don't. I would rather be leveraged into MicroStrategy stuff right now. At the top, I don't know that I want to be in anything MicroStrategy. If I'm in anything, it'll probably be like a Strife, maybe a little bit of Strike. It probably won't be MSTY because I'm just afraid that it might blow up at some point. But I do own MSTY, maybe $100,000 worth right now, and about $1 million in MSTX and MSTU. But I do plan again on dialing some of that back, and again, there's going to be so many other things to bet on, guys. You got to be looking towards the next stuff. Wanted to talk to this Jesse Pelton. Gotta love a Jesse. He said 1 solar panel per person can lift the world out of energy poverty. 10 panels per person can bring the world to U.S. levels. Again, I think solar, I think wind, I think hydro, I think battery systems, I think natural gas, I think coal, I think nuclear energy. All these things are going to start to occur in mass. And as they happen, we'll get richer. We're going to get richer and richer and richer. We're embracing that shit now. I love it. Also, my boy, Fijo, whatever. This is the guy who hosts Forward Guidance and works with Blockworks, my bad. He's great. I love him. I think he's really brilliant. He's had a lot of really insightful stuff, even though I disagreed with him a little bit and he was more bearish on Trump than I was. It's okay. He's respectful. He's smart. He's got Hugh Henry, one of my favorite drug addicts, who's on here talking about Trump. And this guy was bearish as fuck, and that has changed. Again, Bitcoin getting ready to break out, guys. Elon has been posting so much about solar this past few days. Good. I haven't really been looking at a lot of posts. I'm a little behind on it. But let's listen to my favorite drug addict, Hugh Henry, who trips out on acid and shrooms and then figures out his thesis for markets. And hear what he has to say now about Bitcoin and about this Trump administration. And he's come around, and you can see he gets it, and you can see he's excited, and I love it. Let's go.
I think I'm quite alone in this, perhaps, but I'm loving Trump 2.0. I never thought I'd say that. America had stage 4 cancer. Trump is the first president that said, fuck.
He fucking hated Trump, just like so many other people.
Give me the chemo. The inflation is the chemo, but there's a great chance that America's going to come out of this in an insanely good way. But I can't dismiss the chance it's going to die. But the same would apply to China. And I'd say China's more vulnerable. I want to say bad actors who decided to gamify the system of international trade for sovereign benefit. And that is being attacked by the Trump administration today. I mean, arguably one of the most important prices in the universe of man and womankind is the Chinese renminbi rate vis-a-vis the dollar. And it's been the wrong rate at least 1994. So if the price at the core is rotten, every other price becomes rotten. You get the overvaluation of everything. The Trump policy today will reset international trade. The performance of digital currency, Bitcoin et al., has very much impressed me on this. It's just performed really, really well in a risk-off episode. I'm thinking of selling this house. I could sell this for 30, 35 million. I want to get 10 million into Bitcoin because I think this is your last chance. It's going to trade closer to $1 million. It's going to trade at a capitalization greater to gold.
So he's saying worst case scenario, you're going to make a shit ton of money off of Bitcoin. The same fucking thing I've been saying. Hey, Jesse, good morning. Since you think energy and AI is going to play a major role, do you think I don't know energy stocks as well. I don't know if anybody in chat here knows them well. Shay is a guy. He appears on a few things. Shay, yeah, right here. It looks like he's doing something right now. I actually have a lot of respect for this guy. I think he seems smart. He seems like he really gets it. He seems to be a good stock picker. He's grown a lot. He's grown quicker than I have on X. I like him. I think he's clued in with some of the energy plays. But if you guys have somebody better, let me know. I know Oklo is one. I think nuclear is the way to go. In regard to energy plays, I think nuclear is the play. That's what I would focus my energy on. I don't know. That was kind of funny, dad joke. I don't know, though, which one is going to be the best, which one's the best asymmetric bet. That might be something I get interested in. But I do think nuclear is where the money's going to really be. It makes the most sense to me. Small nuclear reactors especially. So I don't know who the best are in the field, guys. Sprout Uranium Trust. What's the ticker on that one, Gemini? All right, let me keep rolling here. And again, you guys in Discord, if you have stuff like that, let me know. If there's tickers I need to add in Discord that are like, again, energy plays, nuclear plays, whatever it is that you think are hot and going to be really good, let me know. I can add the ticker in Discord and you guys can start throwing stuff in there. And then you can bring it up here and we can pull it up in Discord and take a look at it and figure out whether or not it's a good one. Uranium, I don't know about just the underlying. Is that just the underlying? I'll add it as a ticker, though. I'll add it as a ticker. You guys converse in chat. I'm going to keep going on here. Andreas Steno-Larsen said, morning from Europe. Not the market fireworks people expected. Yields up, gold down. Tariff relief equals tailwind for Asia. Europe equals consensus long and net loser. Inflation risk fading fast. CPI coming in soft. Trump's drug move equals deflationary too. More in a write-up soon. And this is the plane that Trump got, guys. Fuck. Look at this thing. This is so Trump. This is so Trump. Qatar knows Trump. And don't get me wrong, I am not a fan of Qatar. Qatar is one of the leading funders of terrorism, okay? They help pay for Gaza. They help pay for universities to have people rioting and protesting. Trump knows this. He's not fucking stupid. But they want to give him a $400 million jet. He's going to take it. He's Trump. It's got gold in it, and it's pretty. Trump likes pretty, okay? This thing is fucking cool. Look at this thing. I would take a free jet. Look at this thing. Look at this thing. You know he's taking it. So he said the fact that the Defense Department is getting a gift free of charge of a 747 aircraft to replace the 40-year-old Air Force One temporarily in very public and transparent transaction so bothers the crooked Democrats that they insist we pay top dollar for the plane. Anybody can do that. The Dems are world-class losers. Go MAGA. I love this man. Love him. Anyway, better pull that thing apart. Yeah, you need to check for bombs and stuff. Let's make sure that he's not going to die. They're going to do all that. Mara up 45% in a month. It might actually be up more than that soon enough. It's up a little bit less than that right now. It's only up 4.4% on the day. But again, that could be higher in a second once Bitcoin starts breaking out. Could we get to 110 today? Maybe. I put, that's past tense. That doesn't matter. Again, we know the China trade deal. We already heard him talking, so we're going to skip it. J.D. Vance says, so Ro Khanna said down here, the Trump J.D. Vance administration has just arrested a mayor in Newark and shoved members of Congress and it's for protesting outside of an ICE facility. In America, you cannot arrest your political opponents. Ro Khanna said in 10/28 of 2019, I actually like this guy. Many people disagreed with the Benghazi investigation, but every single Democrat participated and not one person disrupted the proceedings. Being a member of Congress doesn't give you the right to obstruct the law. Again, this one in here, so this just talks about this lady's great.
Their missiles are the best.
She actually reminds me of a friend of my wife and I's. Anyway, but she's great. She's very tough. She's an Indian broadcaster. She talks about how basically they whoop China or Pakistan's ass and how it looks bad for China. And this is a major broadcaster. Here we got this guy. I love this video. This is an older video. Tell me if this guy doesn't know Trump, if he doesn't get it. Yeah, crooked mayor, fuck her for pushing her way into there. She deserves to go to jail at the very least. Let's listen to this, though. Listen to this guy from Saudi Arabia talking about Trump.
For Trump, he is looking for fair trade. Fair trade, not free trade. Fair trade, in his mind, and he said it many times, is if American market is open, then he expects other countries to open their market. China's market had to be open for American products. This is the crucial thing for him. Now, with Trump, I've been following him for a long time. It is not what he says. So when you listen to him, his announcement, look at what he does, not what he says. He's a businessman. He wants to make a deal. He wants people to come to the table to discuss. So sometimes he comes with a very tough announcement, but what he wants is the people who listen to it to come and sit at the table to negotiate. At the end of the day.
And he's spot fucking on. He's spot fucking on, right? Like he knew what he was talking about. Also, fake news narrative of empty ports, empty shelves suffers spectacular implosion. Again, remember the narrative from a week ago, guys? Remember how the world was coming to an end? Remember how Trump is so dumb? Oh my God, why did he get us up to 145? He's going to destroy the economy. Art of the deal, let's make fun of it. Yada, yada, yada. Used to be the Wyoming lady. Yeah, she doesn't do that anymore? Has she switched? They're talking about up here. We love her. I love her voice too.
The reality? These are just Chinese whispers.
She got that Indian voice, but she just sounds like a badass. She's a tough lady. We love her. Ding ding in 1 minute? We could probably ding ding. Who wants to ding ding? Anybody want a ding ding? We can get a ding ding in here. Let's do this.
Earnings. I've always felt that Merck has some good science. You got it.
She's only on YouTube? Okay.
Earnings.
I like her. She's fucking awesome. She's a badass.
You've got J&J, which no one ever thinks a AAA balance sheet that it's doing badly. That's back to 14 times, which is
that's pre-market, guys. Pre-market right here.
For that company.
Feels like we either celebrate the advancements in cancer and obesity, or we complain about the pricing. We do both all the time.
I think that the fungibility of not knowing why, who's at fault. The easiest one to figure out. We have David Ricks on the show. David Ricks will it out for us in a way that you can say they're not expensive. And that is, by the way, of course, they make the most expensive.
Sorry, guys. I think I just had some alerts go ape shit. They should be terminated right now. Hopefully they don't do that again because I have them normally. Let me see if I can kill this. Mute site. I'm going to mute site. So I've muted the site. Hopefully that didn't blow out your fucking eardrums. I am sorry. I'm sorry if it did. Let me hop over here real quick. Tesla at 318. Yeah, Tesla's doing all right. It's at 317 now, getting a little bit. There's going to be people selling into this, guys. I am one of them. I'm probably taking $25,000, $30,000 right away. Oh, boom. We're up. So there's going to be people selling into it, and then there's going to be people that are going, as it dips, they're going to go, oh, fuck, okay, I want some. And so I wouldn't be surprised to see Tesla or some of these others take a little dip in the morning because this is normal, because people like me like their money, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this gap get filled maybe or at the 308 range, right? and then for people to start piling back in. I think that's what you're going to see. There's going to be a lot of that across the markets, I think, this morning, and I think that's a perfectly normal thing, and I would embrace it. And for you guys who aren't in, this would be your opportunity to get in. That's my take. That's my 2 cents. Guy in his basement, right? Iron up 8.1%. CleanSpark up almost 5%. Mara up 3.5%. MicroStrategy flat on the day. And again, I sold a little bit of MSTX, which is cool. I don't mind that at all. Let me see here. I don't have much of a reason to stick around. I don't. Let me see here. We're going to go through some more news, and I might take a break after that, guys. I got a lot going on. I got a lot of projects. I'm working on my health. Michael Arowitz says, isn't it cute that China's official data shows large swings in inflation, but 5% GDP growth every quarter with perfection? Boy, my phone's just going apeshit. Yeah, it is cute. It's funny. And again, Josh Mandel still has his $440,000 price target by mid-2026. I'm not looking out that far. I don't think that's true. I think it's going to be less. So it's funny because Josh Mandel, I'm more bullish than he is on MicroStrategy over the short to midterm. And he is more bullish on the Bitcoin price action than I am going out into 2026. Because I think we peak this year. So it's kind of funny. Thai Martini guy, but again, I'm not going to shit on him. He made 15 fucking X. Show some respect. God, I'm going to have to turn this down. It's driving me nuts. Bullish, the SEC plans to discuss tokenization at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 12 p.m. Central, with BlackRock, Fidelity, and NASDAQ, and more. So I'm probably going to check that out. I'll try to retweet. We got a retired British police officer arrested and handcuffed and held for 8 hours for writing an X post, which he warned about rising Islamism and anti-Semitism in the UK. Evidently, you can't tell truth on social media. Doge designer, approximately 31.3% of the world, around 2.57 billion people still lack internet access. Isn't that crazy to think of? 2.5 billion people. Starlink has the potential to fix that. I agree with that. We've got Doge. This is insane. The moment Kamala Harris lost the election, Biden began. Oh, you got to hear this.
A little over $40 billion. A little over $40 billion was supplied in support through the loan program office in its 15 years of existence. A little over $40 billion, and then almost
15 years, $40 billion.
$100 billion in the 76 days after they lost the election.
Then 200% more than 200% more over the next 76 days. That screams of corruption and needing to arrest people. Thomas says, and there's people that were talking about this. They're like, oh, maybe, I think, who was it? Ben Cohen was saying, oh, hey, maybe the money supply isn't reflective with that 90 to 100 day lag, and maybe it's working in the other direction. I think all that's bullshit. This is the way it works. I don't have a lot of time to talk about why. Maybe we can ask me in another one and we can talk about it. Again, Michael Arowitz says, this chart makes me laugh each time I see it. Europe is on its way to become irrelevant and an open-air museum with good food. But hey, let's see what we can regulate next. Just showing public from scratch U.S. companies versus EU companies less than 50 years old with a 10 billion plus market cap. So you can see who's leading in innovation between these two. Martini Guy says, breaking the U.S. state of Missouri is reportedly planning on eliminating all capital gains tax on Bitcoin profits. Sounds cool. This is a fully intact bomb from China, a PL-15 BVR that just landed itself without blowing up. And so India is going to have the ability to be able to go through this and figure out what makes it tick and figure out how to offset it. And I'm sure they're going to pass that intel on to the United States in order to be able to get more equipment from us that's better. And that way they can even better defend themselves against China and Pakistan, and maybe create their own golden dome. What do I think about ASST? I don't really know what it is, Sawboss. Been in Deft since 170. Great to see. What is Deft? Sorry. Silas up 223,000 today. I accept it. Yeah, I could be up a decent amount too. MicroStrategy's going down today. Again, they did tap a huge amount of money. So you could see a little bit of retrace today. I might buy more. Again, I sold out of some, probably like 25,000 today, maybe. I don't even know. But I might buy more. We'll see. China's defense fiasco exposed. We already talked about that. Yeah, it's joint statement. Number of cryptocurrencies is in the top above 100. Simple moving average is rising dramatically, which is a good sign. It shows that we're going risk on. I don't know. I think that's it, guys. I think I'm heading out today. I think I'm done. Oh, asset entities. Oh yeah. People were talking about that last week. I still don't know what it is, and I haven't really been paying attention. I got too much on my plate already. SMCI up 8 to 9% today. Fuck. So I don't know. This stuff, this doesn't update well for some reason. It really sucks. But it will update in about, usually by 9:30, this thing starts to update on Ally just because they suck that way. Any buys today? I don't know. I might. I really don't care. This is reflective of Friday, but I do expect these to go up a lot today. A lot. I expect to make a lot of money today. Yeah, so I think guys, I'm going to call it. So right now we're looking at, let's see where we're sitting here. We're sitting with MicroStrategy pretty much flat. Mara's up 4%, CleanSpark's up 5.34, Iron's up 7.4. Sol Strategies is up 2.64, Solana is up 2.5%, SMCI is up 9.22, Nvidia's up 4.22. Tesla's up about 5.5% or something like that. ARKG's up about 5%. Palantir's up 0.35, underperforming. I could see that continue. SoFi's up 4.63. This is one of Tom Lee's granny mid picks. Hood is up 6% today. ARGT, my Argentinian fund that I love so much, I'm looking to apply some capital to that. I might buy some of that today. It's up 1.34%. But it's going to be a good day, guys. There's nothing to cry about today. Don't cry for me, Argentina. We're in a really beautiful place where people are going to make a lot of money. I love you guys. I'll be back tomorrow. You can find me on X. Subscribe if you want to support my work. Comment after the video if you want to support my work. Comment on the X post if you want to support my work. I will be here for you if you're here for me. And it's going to be a wicked year, guys. We're going to make so much fucking money. I love you guys. Peace out. Have a good rest of your day. And let me see if I can find a good exit video here for us to watch. I'll go back one here maybe. Peace out.
Get on the Ark! Everyone on the Ark now!
I think we should get on the Ark. I agree. I think we should get on the Ark also.
I'm cold, I'm wet, I'm going home.
Peace out, guys. See ya.